Happy Tuesday, folks. I'm getting kind of a late start this morning. It's already after 7 o'clock. Usually I'm recording by 5. Anyway, before I begin, I want to address something that I feel needs to be addressed. People who have things to hide, people who don't want other people to know the truth about them, always resort to cowardly tactics in an attempt to keep the truth from being known. I'm becoming very tired of Hollie and her trolls flagging comments that people make that contain certain truths about her. So here's what I'm going to do. The comments that contain truth that they keep flagging, I'm going to read those comments in my videos. You will not keep the truth from coming out. You hide behind that fake account with a fake voice, attacking everybody else. And then you have the audacity to complain about others barking back at you. Yeah, you seem to think it's okay if you do it, but when people talk about you, it's a different story. Well, that kind of crap is not going to fly on my channel. And I'm asking my subs right now, if you make any comments that contain truth about Chris and Hollie, I want you to screenshot those comments, copy those comments. And then if they're flagged, I want you to email them to me, and I will read those comments in a video. I'm not about to allow these trolls to suppress the truth. And here's the thing, Chris and Hollie. If you were not guilty of the things said in these comments, you would not be flagging all of them and having them removed. So like I said, I'm going to start screenshotting all of the good comments as soon as I see them go up. And if they're removed, I'll be reading those comments in a video. All of them. As I said, and I'm speaking to my subs here, if you make a comment and it's flagged, and it gets taken down, keep reposting it. And if, like I said, if it's removed, email it to me. My email's in the description. Because that kind of troll behavior is not going to be allowed on my channel. I'm not going to put up with it. Yeah, as Hollie, you seem to think it's perfectly okay to continually run your mouth and attack other people. So you deserve the same in return. So, bottom line, not only will the comment be made, it will also be emphasized in a video and be given even more attention. So, if you want to keep shooting yourself in the foot and you want to make things worse, then just keep on flagging. As I've said many times in the past, the more you do this type of thing, the worse it's going to be. Because I will not put up with it. So let me read for you the comment by one of my subs, which was flagged and taken down, and she sent it to me. She took a screenshot before it was taken down, and she sent it to me. So, regardless of your efforts, Chris and Hollie, to try to remove this comment, it's coming to the forefront. So don't complain to me. All right, so let's read this by Ocean Mist. It says, the self-loathing narcissist description describes her perfectly in every way. Everything you have said is fact, Kev. She is despicable. They are not Christians and have no right to use religion to deceive people. They are the biggest hypocrites out. I think she meant to say out there. Now she is starting the victimization of petite fireball Ellie all over again on her sneaky loudmouth channel. They just can't leave the poor woman alone. They have dragged that lady through the mud, victimized, threatened, and harassed her for too long already, when all she tried to do was help them. You are pure evil, Hollie. You are smug and think you can go on indefinitely with your dysfunctional behavior towards others. But one thing is definitely for sure. Your day will come. Everything you have done to others, including your own children, will backfire at some stage, and you will then be made accountable. So it's pretty easy to see why Hollie flagged it, because it speaks the truth. Liars and deceivers never want the truth to be told. People of darkness want to remain in the darkness, and also want the truth about them to remain in the darkness as well. The only problem is, this time it backfired on you, Hollie. And let me say this as well. You people, you sympathizers, you come into my comments saying, we are horrible people, saying we're bullies, that we are attacking Chris and Hollie. Just save the wear and tear on your fingers. Don't come into my comments spouting your nonsense, and don't come into my comments telling me what or what not I can say, or how I say it. I mean, yeah, sometimes I get fired up and I raise my voice. Oh, heaven forbid. Again, this is my channel. I will say what I want, when I want, and in any matter I want. If you don't like my yelling, if you don't like me raising my voice or whatever, which is only occasionally anyway, then don't watch my videos. Simple solution. Like I said, this is my channel, not yours. And nobody is going to tell me how to run my channel or what I say or don't say on my channel. All right, period. You don't come into my comments telling me what to do. Yeah, again, if you don't like what I say or how I say it, then don't watch. It's that simple. Problem solved. Now, the truth is, anybody that knows me knows I'm, in real life, knows I'm a pretty easygoing guy. But I also won't put up with any crap. I will not put up with people telling me what I can or cannot do on my own channel. So when you come into my comments in that manner, you're wasting your time. Now, the truth is, if, and I say if, Hollie was actually a Christian, if all her God talk was real, she would get right with God and change her life. But the very fact that she's the same person now as she was in the past is proof positive that she has no desire to change. In my last video, I read Proverbs chapter 31, which described a virtuous woman, the ideal picture of what God considers a virtuous woman to be. A woman who is a true Christian by the biblical definition of what a Christian is. A virtuous woman does not get on camera chugging beer. A virtuous woman keeps herself and her clothes clean. A virtuous woman does not traumatize her child. A virtuous woman does not get on camera dancing with her ass to the camera, swinging it around like a hoe. A virtuous woman would not be on camera flipping people off and acting like an imbecile. A virtuous woman doesn't sit on her butt all day doing nothing. A virtuous woman takes pride in taking care of her children. A virtuous woman would not include their child in their debauchery. The acts in that 3-minute video of theirs, the whole thing is an abomination to God. And it's enough to turn the stomach of any morally upright person. In fact, I'll be honest with you, that video made me want to puke. I found it just absolutely and totally disgusting. Now, last video, We left off with that description of what a virtuous woman is. God's definition of a virtuous woman. And as I said last time, to the unsaved or natural person, as the Bible describes, these biblical principles are foolishness to them. That's because they have an unregenerate soul, an unregenerate heart, an unregenerate nature. There is no spiritual capability on the inside to understand spiritual truth. Now, while they may be somewhat religious, which religion is something that's man-made, the truth is they are at odds with God. Romans 8 verse 7 says, "For the carnal or fleshly unregenerate mind is hostile toward God, for it is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can it be." It is impossible for someone unregenerate, unsaved, to submit themselves to God. Also, in the previous video, we discussed the biblical principle about judging and learned that not only are we to discern between good and evil, not only are we to point out what people are blatantly and openly sinning, but are actually commanded to do so. We are not to just sit idly by and let these things go in our presence. And so this excuse of someone saying, "Don't judge me, you're not supposed to judge me," is simply a smokescreen and has no biblical basis whatsoever. In fact, Ephesians chapter 5 verse 11 plainly says, "And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them." We are told to expose it. We are not to just sit idly by and do nothing when we see behavior that needs to be exposed. Now, I guess in that case, Jesus was a bully, huh? I suppose Jesus was not being a Christian when he called the Pharisees and Sadducees a brood of vipers and a bunch of hypocrites. Yeah, Jesus wasn't a very good Christian, was he? We also learned that Jesus himself said, if you were to cause a child to sin, it would be better for you to be drowned in the depths of the sea. It's a horrific thing to corrupt an innocent child and drag that child into your lewd acts and behavior. And you will not escape God's judgment for doing such a thing. As it says in Galatians chapter 6, verse 7, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that will he also reap." That's a promise from God. You will reap what you sow. Some people call it karma, but it's the same principle. You reap what you sow. As it says in Numbers 32:23, "You have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out." As that old saying goes, at some point, the chickens are going to come home to roost. Now, the next thing I want us to look at is the sin of rebellion. Those who are rebellious seem to think that nonconformity is cool. To rebel against society, against the law, against the principles of God is being cool. No, folks, it's not cool. For one thing, it's a sign of immaturity. It's a sign that you have no spiritual life on the inside. It's an attitude of stubbornness. It's an attitude of hatred toward God. It's a sign that you have anger issues, immaturity issues, self-hate, and a lack of self-respect. It shows that you have some real major deficiencies in your life, in your character, and in your self-image. It shows a void in your soul, which you're trying to fill with other things to try to make yourself feel better, because you know you're lacking. That void that could be filled by the Lord himself, but instead you choose other substitutes. 1 Samuel 15 verse 23 says, "For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, And stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you. The word for witchcraft is the same Hebrew word that other places in the Old Testament is translated divination. Now, I don't want to go into a deep explanation of this word, but let me summarize it this way. There are several places in the Old Testament where kings, seeking truth, seeking direction, rather than seeking God's will through a prophet, went out on their own to someone else who used divination in order to find answers. So bottom line, it is replacing God and seeking God's will through other means, other than God directly. If we want to be honest about it, it's replacing God with demons. It's replacing God's will with your own will. It's replacing God's methods with your methods. It's essentially abandoning God and doing your own thing. In that sense, it's the same as rebellion. Rebellion is replacing God's will with your own will. It is replacing God's standards with your own standards. And the thing we must keep in mind is that pride and rebellion were the sins that caused Lucifer to fall from heaven and become Satan. In Isaiah chapter 14, where God is speaking to the king of Babylon and his fate, which is basically a type of Satan, he says this, starting in verse 10. He says, "Hell from beneath is moved for you to meet you at your coming. It stirs up the dead for you and even all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. They all shall speak and say to you, have you also become as weak as we have? Have you become like us? Your pomp was brought down to hell, and the noise of your harps. Maggots are spread over you, and the worms cover you. How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, or above his angels, other angels. I will sit also on the mount of the congregation in the recesses of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. I will be like God. Yet you shall be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit." And so, to be rebellious, to have an attitude of rebellion, is to literally take on the persona of Lucifer, take on the persona of the devil. It's attempting to place yourself on the throne of your own life and kick God off of that throne. It's saying basically the same thing that Lucifer said. I will be like the Most High. All false religions try to bring man up to God's level. I will be like God. I will replace God with myself, with my own will. I will replace God's will for my life with my own will for my life. This is what we call humanism, because that is what humanism wants to do. It wants to replace God with man. It wants to do away with God and his will and replace it with man's ideas and goals. In fact, the Humanist Manifesto says right in the manifesto that humanism is a religion. It says that humanism is a religion of man rather than a religion of God. It takes everything that belongs to God and tries to give it to man. Now, the fact is, our entire country, and in many cases our entire world, is operating under the religion of humanism. God was kicked out of our schools and has been replaced with the religion of humanism. Oh, we can't teach creation science in our schools, but they allow the lies and false science of evolution to be taught in our schools. A concept or theory, or actually it's not even a theory, it's more of a hypothesis that has absolutely no basis in science. None. Now, there are people, all these evolutionists try to say that it is scientific, but they know that there is no evidence for evolution whatsoever. None. Humanism is the religion of the day. Rebellion is humanism. It's replacing God in your life with your own will, your own ideas, your own lifestyle. Rebellion is sin. Rebellion is demonic. The mindset of a rebellious person is demonic, ungodly, sinful. And those of you who try to justify what Chris and Hollie do show your total lack of spirituality and your demonic mentality. Jesus said, no man can serve two masters. The fact is, either God is in control of your life or Satan is in control of your life. The flesh is in control of your life. And as I've said on many occasions, the lifestyle that Chris and Hollie live is satanic. It is in rebellion against God and against His Word. I mean, the very fact that they are living together, not married, having a child out of wedlock, is proof in itself that they absolutely do not care about God's will. They've substituted their own wills for God's will. And rather than following God's word, they are following the doctrines of demons. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. It says, know this, in the last days perilous times will come. Men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, blasphemers, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection. Whew. You know what that means? That's what we have seen with Hollie and her kids. No natural affection. Doesn't care about them. Doesn't care if they're fed or not. The kid's begging mom to fix them something to eat while she sits on her butt, ignoring them. Unrestrained. Boy, didn't we see that in the last video. Fierce, despisers of those who are good. Reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness. Oh yeah, they try to act religious, but denying its power. And it says, turn away from such people. So Paul tells us, avoid this kind of people. Now, does that mean that we don't try to help them? Absolutely not. We ought to try to help anybody that needs help. But that doesn't mean that we should associate with them on a personal basis. The fact is, evil people tend to influence good people rather than vice versa. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen some girl start dating an unsaved guy saying, well, I think I can change him. No. Usually doesn't turn out that way. Majority of the time has the opposite outcome. The evil starts influencing the good. That's why the Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. It says, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness? What communion has light with darkness? So, while we might attempt to help people, we are not to be unequally yoked with them. We are not to closely associate ourselves with them. Our objective is to bring them from darkness to light, from unrighteousness to righteousness, from an unregenerate condition to a regenerate condition, from a child of the devil to a child of God. That's the prime objective. See, that's my main reason for speaking on the subjects in this video, to shed some light upon the darkness. And make no mistake about it, Chris and Hollie are both in darkness. They are both dead spiritually. And the fruit that they produce and put on public display confirms that. And folks, like I said before, I'm not being mean or being a bully by saying these things. I am simply speaking truth. And liars and deceivers and scammers do not want truth. I'm simply exposing the darkness like I'm commanded to do. By the way, I'm not forcing anybody to watch my videos. Again, if you don't like what I have to say, don't watch. If you don't want the truth to be spoken, then crawl back under your rock and stay off my channel. I make my videos for people who want to know the truth and don't want the truth to remain hidden in darkness. In John chapter 3, verse 19 through 21, Jesus said this: "This is the verdict, that light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone who does evil hates the light, and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. But he who does the truth comes to the light, that it may be revealed that his deeds have been done in God." And so, a righteous person welcomes the truth. A liar, a deceiver, an evil person tries to suppress the truth. Why? Well, Jesus plainly said, because their deeds are evil, and they know it. And that is exactly why comments are flagged. That is exactly why Chris and Hollie and their trolls don't want the truth spoken, because their deeds are evil. All right, so next video we will continue looking at these principles that we've seen in their video and doing what the Bible tells us to do, exposing them. So until then, take care.